Have you ever been lost in the paper trails of Indian bureaucracy? I'm talking about getting a driver's license made, procuring a passport or a visa, filing returns for taxes, or filling out challans, etc. I'm sure that each and every one of you must have, at one time or another, found yourselves lost in the mind-numbing labyrinths of officialdom that render an astonishing elusiveness to even the most simplest of tasks. Even if you are a meticulously organized person, you would have inadvertently found yourself chasing stamps, seals, and signatures. A chase that would have definitely sent you on a long and arduous journey. I'm sure that you have been through several of these journeys and that you've relished and enjoyed each and every step of them. Having studied in various government institutions, I have been exposed to these journeys from an early age. Once, I tried to apply for a couple of days' leave from my junior college. I was told that I had to get a leave application signed by the vice principal of the university. So I wrote a polite letter specifying my dates and then went to the vice principal's office. The guard outside the office growled at me when I attempted to knock on the door. "What do you want?" he asked in Marathi. "I wanted a leave application signed by the vice principal," I replied in Hindi. The guard rolled his eyes. "Come tomorrow morning. Sahib is busy right now." But the following morning, the guard blocked my way into the office again. "Come later. Sahib is busy right now." "At what time should I come?" I asked. "Later," he said through clenched teeth. I was unaware of this at that point, but the guard was the master of his universe. That is, the master of the universe of getting into the vice principal's office. His supremacy trounced the highest powers to be in this regard, and he was the absolute ruler. My friends explained this to me later. "You're a complete doofus," they said. "Go, talk to the guard politely, talk only in Marathi, feign interest in his family and kids, and take a box of sweets along. That can help." Then, and only then, almost as if it's an afterthought, asked to be let into the vice principal's chamber. I thought about this for some time. Then I printed out my leave application, peppered it with a few words in Marathi, but decided there was no way I was going to take a box of sweets just to be let into an office. Then I ventured back there the next day. "Vice Principal kuthi aahe?" I asked as politely as I could. This launched the guard into a string of Marathi, all of which I could not comprehend, but which I nodded along to anyway. But I got the sinking feeling that I would not be let into the office again. While still nodding my head and reconsidering my previous position on the box of sweets and wondering where I could arrange one from quickly, I was ushered into the office with a smile. When I entered the office, the vice principal looked up at me and asked what I wanted. On explaining to him that I needed a leave application signed, he looked gravely at me and asked why I had not got a letter from my HOD. "A what?" I asked. "Well," he said, "you have to get an official letter from your head of department stating that it is acceptable for you to be absent on your desired dates. This letter should be on official college stationery. Then you have to go to the registrar and get it stamped by them, and only then you can come and see me. You see, these things have to go through their proper channels." And that was my first taste of it. Of title-wielding babus who bounced me from one side to the other like a ping-pong ball. They created a system of arbitrary authorities that were responsible for everything, but not accountable for anything. After 4 years of studying engineering at a government institute, I was fed up with red tape. I was glad to be finally heading out into the real world, but my dreams of hurdle-free freedom were thwarted when I lost my engineering degree. I mean, I lost that physical piece of paper which claimed that I was an engineer. Have you ever lost a degree earned from an Indian government institute? Let me tell you, it's the single most awful job-related thing that can happen to you. That white piece of paper which certifies you as an engineer or a doctor or whatever have you, if you have it, treasure it. For when I lost mine, I found out that I had to A, get an affidavit signed and notarized on special ₹100 stamp paper and give that to the university. B, file an FIR at a police station and give that as well as a copy to the university. C, get an ad taken out in a local newspaper and, no seriously, I had to do this, and give a copy of that to the university. And it took me quite a few weeks just to get steps A through C into place. And then came step D, which was to meander around the halls of my alma mater, trying to understand who needed to sign which form and seal which application so that I could get my degree reissued. Basically, the applicant ping pong had begun once again. Go on Friday and I was told come on Monday because the registrar was out of town. Go on Monday and I was told to return on Friday because the Dean of Students Affairs needed to approve the procedure. Next was a signature by the Dean of Academic Affairs and then another one by the HOD. Bouncing between a mishmash of titles, it took me more than a month to understand that within the convoluted tiers of this hierarchy, the Dean of Students Affairs was the head babu. She was the master of this universe. That is, the master of the universe of getting a duplicate degree reissued having lost the original. My duplicate degree reissue was completely reliant on her whims. Whims that had been swaying to and fro with no rational explanation for months. I once had the audacity to voice this concern, to say that it had been nearly 3 months since I had applied for the degree but not received it yet. Apparently, this angered her. You people don't understand proper proceedings. This is an official degree. We just can't give it like that. These things have to go through their proper channels. That was also when she became borderline abusive towards me. I remember nights where I curled into a ball and cried into my pillow, pining for my lost degree. It was during another phone call with the Dean of Students Affairs, another one in which she was almost making me cry, that my mother overheard the way that I was being treated. She decided that something had to be done. We have to find another solution. She chose the route of relatives, as many people in India do when confronted with an insurmountable task. She found out that my father's younger brother's wife's second cousin had a friend who was friends with the Chief Police Commissioner of Jaipur. We contacted this Chief Police Commissioner and pleaded to his greater sense of humanity and asked him to please recover my obscure engineering degree. I have no idea what he did, but within 2 hours of my conversation with him, the Dean of Students Affairs called me up and said my degree was ready, and she asked me where she could come to give it to me. I mean, she was going to deliver the degree to me in person. That was quite a change from her previous disposition. Apparently, the threat of someone more omnipotent entering her universe spurned her 3-month-old rusting pen into action. I promptly received my degree the next day, just in time before my degree needed to be verified for a job. But it was a situation I never want to find myself in again. And I repeat, if you have a degree earned from a government institute in India, then please guard it with your life. Actually, it's probably more important than your life, because I am sure that you will never be as irreplaceable as your government institute. But the worst in my experiences was yet to come. As an MBA student in Calcutta, I had decided to pursue a semester abroad in Milan, Italy. Aware that I was sandwiched between visa authorities on one side and a government university on the other, both of which are notorious for officialdom in India, I had decided to do a trial run of sorts. A run in which I filled in my application and took it to the embassy to be verified 2 weeks before I actually submitted it. When I went to the embassy in Calcutta, a young Sardarji in a blue turban greeted me. Please print the application on both the front and back sides of the page, he said in a robotic voice. I nodded meekly. Why haven't you filled in the dates yet? He asked when I tried to explain that my flights to Italy were not booked yet. Where are you paying the university fees? I don't see any fee payment form. Where is the fee payment form? Well, it's an exchange program, I explained. I will be paying my fees here at my university, while the student from Milan will be paying the fees there at his own university. That's how the exchange program works. He looked at me as if I had 3 heads. Well then, get an official letter from your university saying that you will be paying the fees here. Great, I thought to myself, another document needed. And I'm sure you're probably going to forget everything that I'm telling you right now, so I'm going to write it behind your application, he said. So in a spidery scrawl, he then penciled in his various grievances against my form on the back of the last page. I thanked him for his assistance and promised to return 2 weeks later. On heading back to my institute, I tried to find who needed to sign which application to get an official letter saying that I was paying the fees there. Why do you need such a letter? The Babu in the administrative department of my university inquired. Well, the embassy said I need such a letter, I explained. Well then, if you need such a letter from us, he said, cracking his knuckles, then get a letter from them saying that they need such an official letter. I stared dumbfounded for a few seconds before finally opening my mouth to speak. What? Are you kidding me? Apparently that was not the right thing to say. You students don't even understand official proceedings? This is an official letter. We can't just give an official letter like that. These things have to go through their proper channels. Proper channels, of course. Another round of ping pong had begun. I had to go back to the embassy to get a letter, an official letter from them saying that I needed an official letter from my university. Then I had to go back to my university and first get a letter which said that I indeed was a student studying there, and then get another letter which said I was paying fees there, all of it so that I could apply for the visa. 2 weeks of running around later, I finally went to reapply for the visa with the final application. The same young Sardarji greeted me, only this time he was wearing a red turban. He remembered me and said hello. I see you have still not printed the application front and back, he said. I felt my whole world collapse. But before I could fall to his feet and grovel to be forgiven, he said, it's okay, we'll manage with this. And then he turned to the next page and said nonchalantly, oh, your passport is from Bombay. You have to apply at the embassy in Bombay. I couldn't have heard him right. He couldn't have said what he had clearly just said. But my voice was like stuck in my throat at the time. But I have exams next week and I cannot possibly fly to Bombay at such short notice. No. You have to apply in Bombay. There is an official channel for these things. These things have to go through their proper channels. And there it was, proper channels. Well then, I said with slight indignation, why did you not tell me this when you checked my documents last 2 weeks ago? He thought of this for a few seconds, then looked at me and told me the most bold-faced lie I have ever had anyone tell me to my face. He looked me squarely in the eyes and said, I have never checked your application. That was when I lost it. All those years of dealing with proper channels and worthless protocol spewed forth like molten vomit. I stood up and started yelling and screaming, telling him, admit it, you checked this application, admit it, this is your crappy handwriting on the back of the page, admit it. I was possessed. There was no way I would let proper channels ruin my life anymore. And then I shouted a little more and uttered a few phrases that cannot be mentioned here, but which summarize what he needed to do with his excruciating application, his pathetic job, and his miserable life. I don't know how miserable life came in, but I did indeed say it at that point. And other staff members rushed in at that point. They tried to intervene to calm me down, but I was out for blood. I would not let proper channels ruin my life anymore. I screamed and yelled some more until my mouth went dry. And then there was a long pause. Nobody was quite sure what to do for a few seconds. Then the embassy staff started bustling about. They first reprimanded the visa-checking Sardarji. They claimed he was new and did not know the proper channels. Then they asked me to get a residence proof from my university, stating that I was indeed a student there who lived and studied there. I filed my application the next day and miraculously received my passport back a week later with the Italian visa safely tucked within its pages. Needless to say, I checked it several times, holding it against the light, making sure it was real, pinching myself to ensure I was not dreaming, but it was real. I had achieved victory against the impossible system. India's bureaucracy is a rather difficult one to deal with, and we treat it almost like a rite of passage, something that we all go through. It is a system which is the source of much pain, frustration, toil, and even a few laughs. After all, we tell each other these stories and we bond over that. We laugh at the ridiculousness of these tales once they are long past. We wait for things to change, and they do, slowly. But until then, this is how things are done in India, only through the proper channels. Thank you.